If you ever hear yourself saying, "That's not my ego, I don't have an ego," that, my friend, is your ego talking. We all have an ego, and it's all good. It's a matter of understanding what ego is, how ego has been constructed and created, and more importantly, when your ego's activated, when you're coming from ego. I always ask myself, is this my higher self or is this my ego? My ego's always trying to explain away, understand, defend, argue, judge. It's creating disconnection and disruption. Higher self is always present. It's poise, it's power, it's openness, it's being receptive. So if I'm in a situation with a person, like my relationship, or with a client, and I'm finding myself wanting to argue or defend or even prove that person wrong, I know that I'm coming from my ego. When I am being insecure about something, I know I'm coming from my ego. When someone's giving me feedback and I'm hearing myself wanting to explain myself away and justify what's there for me, I know that that's the ego, like yapping behind the scenes. When I choose to respond and take the feedback and I respond responsibly without having to justify or explain, I know that I'm coming from my higher self. So there's a difference, there's a distinction. So the role that you really want to pay attention to is the role of the ego or the role of the higher self. Which one am I coming from? One's going to create and connect, the other one's going to push away and put up a wall and essentially keep you stuck. So I'm going to share with you 20 surprisingly ways your ego is being activated. A lot of times we don't realize this is the ego. And when we do research into what ego really is, we're like, whoa, wait, I've been doing that. I didn't know that was ego. I thought that was just me expressing myself. Yeah, it is expressing yourself, and it's also expressing the part of you, the part of you that's egotistical, that's the identity. So just to share one more thing here with you, the ego isn't bad, it's not negative. You just want to understand that it's there to protect you. It's there to make sense of your life, make sense of the way you're being. It's not there to necessarily destroy. However, we tend to use it to destroy things, to save face, to keep us looking a certain way or feeling a certain way at the expense of others. So keep that in mind. It's not bad. You just want to identify it, be one with it, understand it, and then choose which way you want to respond to your environment and the people around you, from higher self or from ego. So here are the 20 ways, 20 examples ego likes to show up. Number one, interrupting conversations. I know you've done this, I've done this, where someone's sharing a story with you and you want to blurt out something and interrupt and share what you experienced without actually listening to the other person finish what they're saying. Right there, you're putting yourself in front of the other person as far as importance goes. You're saying, you know what, I'm going to dominate this conversation. I'm more important. What I have to say is more important than you. So you want to be able to identify that and catch yourself. Number two, one-upmanship, those one-uppers. I know I've done that before in the past too, where, you know, you're hearing someone share about their story, their life, an experience they had. Let's say they were stuck in traffic and they were like, man, I was in traffic for 45 minutes today and it was crazy and all this stuff, and I left at this time. And you're like, oh my God, you should have heard this. I was in traffic today for 55 minutes today. And you're like one-upping the situation, like you guys are competing now for which story, which experience was worse in traffic. So pay attention to that too. You might not think that that's your ego. It is, though. You're expressing some sort of superiority over the person, the conversation. Again, dominance, control. Number three, micromanaging. So I see this a lot with parents when they're being helicopter parents with their kids. Also too in relationships, whether it be friendships, romantic relationships, you'll see partners kind of hover over the other person, nitpick at certain things, wanting to control every aspect of every situation. You know, like when let's say you guys are both, you and your partner or whoever, are meeting at one location, two separate cars, and you're telling the other person, make sure you park in this area because it's easier. Don't park next to this spot because it's more difficult. And then you're like, well, you know what? I've had good experiences there. No, don't. Just listen to me. Make sure you park here. Make sure you do that. That's micromanaging. It's a little bit more controlling. And you want to pay attention to that. When are you micromanaging certain situations? Sometimes you have to let go and just let things breathe and let things flow. So pay attention to that. Again, that has to do with control. Number four, ignoring feedback. This one's interesting. I've done this before a lot in the past. I sometimes do this now, considering that I don't really care too much about people's opinions when they're not qualified or verified and they're not living the life that I want to live. So if I'm hearing someone talk about giving back feedback to me about a situation that I'm going through and they've never gone through that, for example, parenting, when I hear a non-parent give suggestions about parenting, I'm like, you have no space here to talk. I'm going to shut them down, depending on who they are. And again, considering the source, are they even qualified to speak on something like this? What I do see a lot are people who are making mistakes and they don't want any feedback whatsoever, or, like they're wanting to improve, but you're giving feedback on whether it's the equipment they're using or the strategy they're using or the way they're thinking. Is it functioning? And a lot of times they'll shut people down because they don't really want to hear the part of them that is not succeeding. Like, they don't want to face the fact that something's not adding up. And that, again, is ego. What I've written down here about ignoring feedback is that it's dismissing feedback reflects the ego's resistance to acknowledging flaws and weaknesses. Again, it's like trying to save face. The ego always wanted to protect itself. So when it's trying to protect itself, it's trying to hold on to their image. They don't want to look like they're less than. Blaming others. Number 5, it's not my fault. They should have known better. This is an interesting one too. I've heard this a lot, where I would hear a person say, you know what, you should have told me that this was going to happen. Wait, what? I should have told you that's what's going to happen? Like, you're responsible for what you're doing in your life. What do you mean I should have told you this is what's going to happen? That bugs me, and I had to correct that with a certain somebody in my life, where it's like, I'm not here to micromanage you. I'm not here to help you with every step. You're supposed to assume responsibility for everything that you do. So being able to look at your own faults, your own weaknesses, and assume responsibility where you're owning the part of you that didn't match up. You're owning the inadequacy of the moment. And just because you're inadequate in a moment doesn't mean you're inadequate as a person. And that's where things get a little messy for people when they're looking through the lens of their ego. They often associate their failed actions as a failed person, failed identity, which isn't the truth. Number 6, judging others. Whenever you're finding yourself in a position where you're criticizing and judging others, which we all do, I do it, and I have to catch myself. I'm like, why am I judging them for wearing a mask inside the car? If they want to wear a mask inside the car, they want to wear a mask inside the car. What does that matter to me? Just don't push your stuff on me. You let me be me, I'm going to let you be you. Same thing too, where, there's people who dress a certain way, look a certain way, wear a certain amount of makeup, whatever. I don't really care about that. I hear other people complain about that, but again, that's judgment. That's having your feelings of inadequacy, judging other people. Maybe you're not looking at yourself to a certain degree, so then you're looking outwards, putting other people down, something to pay attention to. Deflecting praise. Number 7, deflecting praise. So this is interesting too, because whenever you get a compliment, like, hey, you look good today, and you just deflect it by giving a compliment back. And you might not think that this is coming from your ego, because you're just trying to be nice too. Because it also plays into the law of reciprocity, right? When you give, you get. When someone gives you a compliment and they say, you look beautiful today, you look nice today, you look handsome today, like, oh, I love the way, you did this project or whatnot. You always want to be in a place of reception where you're saying, thank you, I appreciate that. You don't have to give instant feedback to the person either, or an instant compliment. Take it, be with it, love it, appreciate it. It's almost as if you were to give me $1 and I give you $1 right back. And you want to give me $1, but I'm giving it right back to you. I'm taking away your fulfillment and intention of giving by giving it right back. Does it make sense to you? You always want to be able to be in a place of reception and appreciation and value. Value that. Value yourself. Number 8, seeking external validation. I do this. And see, this is me being in unison, owning my ego. So the example I've written down here too is, do you think they like my presentation? Do you think they like my content? Was that post good? I do this. I do this every day, actually. And I do make fun of myself when I do this, because I do this with my girlfriend when I say, hey, did you see my post? Did you like it? I like it. I know it's good. Like, I really truly know it's good, because I wouldn't put it up if it wasn't. And I go to her every day and I'm like, hey, did you like it? Was it good? Give me some feedback. And I'm looking for external validation, and I'll make fun of myself too. Like, I know it's my ego. I know it is. Is it disrupting my relationships? Is it getting in the way? No, but it is feeding a part of my need for validation. So I own that. So I invite you to look at that too for yourself. Other ways it can show up too is when you need compliments from people wherever you go, on your appearance, on your performance. I only do this with my girlfriend. I don't do this with anybody else. So pay attention to how you're doing it, how you're using the need for external validation. Number 9, overcommitting. I do this too. So I tend to overcommit to things, and I'm getting better at saying no. It's a powerful word to play in this powerful world. No. You can always say no to things. You don't have to commit to everything that comes into your awareness. And this is something I'm getting better at. I've gotten a hell of a lot better at this, because what happens is, you feel like you might be missing out on something. FOMO. You might feel like you need to prove that you're worthy. For me, it's always needing to prove to myself that I can handle more, because if I don't, then I might feel inadequate. So again, I'm telling on myself here because I'm cool. Me and my ego are homies. We got this together. So I'm always constantly looking at where I can improve. So being able, and take how I'm interacting with you about my ego, take this as a lesson. This is helpful. When you're able to look at yourself and not judge yourself, you're like, damn, I do that. Yeah, I own that. How can I improve upon this? So again, overcommitting, and it's your need to be recognized and praised, whether that be to yourself or somebody else. It might be coming from, when I say to yourself, recognizing yourself, praising yourself, that might be coming from a place of inadequacy, not feeling good enough. So by overcommitting, you're like, I did it, but you're stressed out and you haven't slept and you didn't do that good of a job. So pay attention to that too. Number 10, talking over others. So this one reflects the belief that your thoughts and experiences are superior to others. When I see this a lot in heated conversations where the person feels like they need to get out what they have to say and they're not even listening to the other person and what they're saying. And my general understanding of this is that if you are already talking and talking over the other person, you're not hearing what I'm saying. Therefore, you're not listening. Therefore, this communication is ineffective. Pay attention to that. That is your ego. Again, and that creates disruption. That creates separation for sure. Number 11, exaggerating achievements. I used to do this too all the time. I don't do this anymore, where you kind of inflate your experiences and achievements. This is often the ego looking for admiration and validation. When you are inflating what's happening, you're essentially lying. You're telling a story around that. And then if you get caught up in doing this, people don't trust you. It's a good way to get your ego in the way and to disrupt your reputation and even people's perceptions of you. Number 12, status symbolism. It's when you're achieving, like a lot of times, like what I see are people looking for designer clothes, certain watches to showcase their status, even getting into relationships, let's say with a really good looking person, when they don't even like the person. That's also kind of validation too, external validation. But going for the status symbolism, applying it to that. I did that one time where I was with someone because of how they looked, and I didn't really care much about them, and that was super egotistical, primarily operating from my ego there, and it was because it made me look good. So pay attention to that too. When you're achieving things and you're going after things, are you doing it because it feels good, because you actually enjoy it, or are you doing it because you want to look good? Number 13, by the way, my favorite number is 13. I love 13. Refusing help. I always laugh at this too, because I used to be this way, number one, where I would rather move out everything myself out of one apartment to the next. I don't need help, and I'm carrying a heavy couch up the stairs and down the stairs. And it's interesting too, because you tend to get in your way big time and break yourself down over time, where you push people away. You want closer relationships, but you're not even allowing anybody with a kind, giving heart to come into your life because you're blocking abundance from every avenue. It's really interesting to look at when you are refusing help, not just physical help, but emotional help, mental help. You're cutting off abundance. You're cutting off the flow. And a lot of it has to do with you wanting to express your independence. And you might feel like you're trapped and you're stuck. And so you want to prove that you're worthy. Number 14, excessive competition. I am this way. Maybe I don't know about excessive, but I am highly competitive and I want to kill everything. Not like take a life, but I want to be able to hammer and hammer and hammer away. I want to destroy everything around me. Not literally destroy people or things, but like if I'm competing against you, I'm going to win. And so that's my mindset, and I understand that's my ego. I get it and I love it. It gives me an edge. However, I don't use it to destroy relationships, and I'm not going to hurt somebody to just win. I might hurt your ego because I might blow you out of the water, but I'm not gonna really hurt the person. And I think it's healthy to pay attention to when you are doing things because you feel inadequate and you want to feel just superior. I have to check myself too. Am I doing this because I just want to prove that I'm smarter and more intelligent, or am I doing this because I want to beat myself and I want to outdo myself and outdo the person that's around me, because that's just the nature of how I work. I want to win. So as you can tell, there's some work that I need to do around that. So anyways, constant comparisons. So this is the ego's need to look around and to measure where you're at in comparison to where other people are at. This can be healthy. This also can get in the way, because if you're comparing yourself and you're not allowing yourself to express yourself to the fullest extent, or to move effectively because you're thinking, well, they're doing this better, or or they're doing this better, why am I not this good? And then it hinders your expression, then obviously that gets in the way. When you are thinking and looking at what you're creating and doing, and you're taking a superior route to this, where you're looking at other people and you're thinking that they're less than or they suck, you definitely want to pay attention to that too, because you're in essence putting yourself on a pedestal and putting other people down. And that can get in the way too, where you think you're just better than other people all the time. And you do want to believe that you're better, but you don't want to let it get in the way of relationships and building connections. And you don't want it to close your heart and have you lack empathy, because trust me, I came from that and it sucks. I've came a long way from that too, where I have a lot of healthy relationships and I'm a hell of a lot more empathetic, where I can actually see people and feel people, and it's awesome. It's a great thing. So next one, ignoring boundaries. So a lot of times people will joke around. They'll not be sensitive. They'll be insensitive to other people's feelings. And they'll say, oh, yeah, I'm just joking. Don't take it so personally. Or they'll tend to go to that. So they'll dismiss other people's boundaries or feelings, their personal space. I have a big, huge boundary where I don't want you to call me unless you've texted me beforehand, or we've scheduled something and it's on my calendar. It's a boundary that I have with time and to be effective in my life. I do this with my daughter too as well, and she does this with me, and she loves it for herself too as well. She's like, man, I can get so much more stuff done, and I'm not always on my phone, and people just don't reach out to me, random people. Like, I know what's happening. I get to structure my day, and I'm like, dude, this is, my daughter's 16, right? So it's an awesome boundary to share with people, because you become more effective. So whenever you're ignoring people's boundaries, that's your ego saying, I'm more important than you. I'm not respecting you. You know, it could be sense of humor too, where you just override people's limitations of humor. Or some people don't like to joke around in certain ways. I've had to learn a lot about that because I'm a jokester. And some people can't take my jokes. Sometimes I come off as being serious when I'm really joking. So I've had to train myself on this too as well. And anyway, so here we go. Where are we at here? So scapegoating. It's all their fault. If they hadn't messed up, everything would be fine. It's sort of like pushing responsibility, blaming other people. So this deflects blame. It is the ego's way of preventing the feeling of shame, guilt. The ego never wants to feel shame and guilt or blame. So it'll deflect. It'll blame it on other people. If you find yourself doing this, check yourself, please, because you don't want to be that person who never takes responsibility, who's always pushing it off to other people. Be the leader. Assume full responsibility. Even if it's other people who mess up around you and you're in a leadership position, assume full responsibility for you not training them effectively. Gaslighting. This one's an interesting one too as well. Let's keep this tight here, because this could be something that's its own video here, where you're wanting to maintain control. You're wanting to even control the perception of the other person. You're wanting to save face. You're wanting to look a certain way. So let's say you get caught up in a lie, or you made a mistake and you're blaming somebody else, or you're trying to convince someone that what they're seeing or what they're experiencing is not real. And you're trying to flip the script. It's manipulation. That is 100% egotistical. So you might not even realize that you're doing this. Gaslighting. When I first started looking into what gaslighting really is, about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I was surprised that I actually was doing it to certain degrees. And I checked myself. Number 19, name dropping. So this one is interesting too, where people want to be associated with certain statuses or certain perceptions or certain groups or ideologies or whatnot. So they'll name drop and say, oh, I know so-and-so. Oh, yeah, they're my friend or whatnot. That's fine if they're truly your friend. But when you're doing it in excess to prove that you're worthy or that you're this big person, when really you feel small inside, that's the important part here. Is like, am I doing this because I feel small? That's your ego. Am I saying this because it's actually valid and in relation to this conversation I'm having? Because I'll name drop people, but only if they're saying, hey, I met this person. I'm like, oh, nice. How'd you meet this person? Oh, we were at the same event together, and they're doing this. You should come to the next event. I said, oh, definitely I will. I'm actually good friends with that person. Really? And then I'm like, yeah, I can make a connection if you want. That's not coming from ego. I'm trying to make a connection, right? So again, you want to look at this from a place of, am I doing this because I'm trying to be superior, because I feel little, because I feel inadequate and I want to be seen in this light? Or am I doing this to actually help people and make connections, create relationships? The last one here, number 20, grudge holding. So when you cannot forgive another person, you can't let go of something, and you're holding on to this energy and it's stagnant, you are literally creating disconnection here. You're not allowing yourself to grow. You're imprisoning yourself. When you're doing this, you're holding on to this sense of victimhood and moral superiority. They did this to me and I didn't deserve this, and shame on them. Bro, you are 100% coming from ego. If you can see through the experience and see how you co-created the experience, what is the lesson? You can clear that energy and you can forgive to give forward. And you can be at peace. You don't have to hold yourself in prison with that person or hold them in prison. You can let it go. Ego, again, is for control, saving face, not allowing for connection. It's a block. When you're coming from a place of ownership and forgiveness and being one and listening and empathy and love and connection, you're coming from a place, your higher self. Again, ego has a role. It does have a role, but when you're destroying other people and you're creating disconnection, you want to be able to pivot into more of a higher self version of the ego version. So thank you for listening to my 20 examples of ego. Let me know in the comments below if you see any of these for yourself. And as you know, conscious creators are the future. There is no ceiling.